the amount of stress that is produced by that tournament alone, and it's weird because you go into a Bassmaster Classic and you got 54 guys there, and you're like, man, I only got to beat 53 of these dudes, and you feel like you hope that you don't even have 53 to beat, but it's just one of those things where you just a tremendous amount of stress that you're normally able to fight off throughout the year. We've all been through it. You get into those modes like your time's running out. I'm really bad about being time sensitive. Matter of fact, I'm so weird about it that there's a lot of times that if I'm fishing shallow, I don't have either one of our front units on because they have time displayed on them, and I don't want to know how much time I've got left. It just pushes me. It makes me go too fast, and I skip stuff, and I'm bad about covering. So I had one of my marshals in the Classic ask me, he's like, what do you, in your opinion, is the biggest mistake that the average angler makes while he's fishing? I'm like, well, that's kind of a hard question to answer, but I said the thing that I see with most of the elite guys that I know and that I hang around, and myself included in that bunch, versus the guys that don't get the opportunity to put that much time on the water as we do, is they just don't move as much, and they don't rely on. I don't have to have had practiced here. I don't have to have rolled through here and had 3 or 4 bites in this area. It's showing me that it has potential right now. I'm fishing the times and the current conditions to the best of my ability to the minute, and that works for and against you. So when you're rolling that fast, I think that everybody that watched the Classic coverage could see Steve Kennedy. Steve Kennedy is a good friend of mine, and Steve is on a different level of mental thinking, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Steve's just a unique individual. He's on a parallel with Aaron Martin's, okay? And some of those guys, there's a few of those guys out there on tour that do that. And by that, what I mean is they look at things that I'm not even capable, or they're thinking of things that I'm not even capable of, and they're moving at speeds that's beyond what we move at. And so I answered the question. I say, just moving and believing in what you're doing, having confidence, like, hey, I don't have to have rolled through here in practice. I fish a ton of new water every event because maybe I've just rode through it. Maybe I haven't even seen it, but at that particular time, it's like, hey, this kind of looks similar to what's going on right now. I'm going to roll through here. I'm going to spend 10 minutes. Whereas an angler that maybe doesn't do it as often would roll in there and would spend 2 or 3 hours trying to fish it. And I'm going to spend 10 minutes trying to fish it. And like somebody like Steve Kennedy would spend half of that time trying to fish it, if that makes sense. And it's just, it's looking for that real quick clue. Now, granted, on the flip side of that coin is as soon as you get that clue, we kind of have the ability to throw the brakes on. It's like, hey, now it's time to make the most of this. If you've ever been around Greg Hackney and watched him fish, dude, like, he is the most methodical guy and slow in delivery on his pitches and how he works the bait, and it's impressive to me. But when he moves instantly. It's like, I'm done with it. This is over. I'm now here, and I'm in this. I'm now in this universe. I'm not no longer. This is done. And I fell into a trap with him at Knoxville on the Tennessee River this year, and we were running some of the same stuff. And there was 3 or 4 moves that I made, and I made 10 moves to his 3. Now, he finished the event way better than I did, but Greg is so thorough. And I actually said something to him about it. I was like, Greg, I pulled into that pocket knowing that I needed to fish in there. I said, and you were in there and you were fishing. It was a small pocket deal. And I was like, you were fishing so thorough and so slow at that time. He goes, well, I thought there was only maybe 1 fish in there and I was going to catch him. And that's Greg's mentality. Me or Steve Kennedy, there has to be 100 of them in there, and we're going to catch 25 of them and move on to the next one that's got 50 in it. That's just, it's really interesting to see how different anglers approach that. But back to the original question, the stress develops whenever that don't work out. And you start then, even no matter how many hours you've got on the lake, you start questioning yourself, man, did I make the right move? Did I meet a lot of, did I leave a lot of fish behind me? And I'll be honest with you, I can't tell you how many times I've gone back at the end of the tournament day. Pickwick, perfect example from this year. Went back to the camper at the end of the night, and I was talking to my wife, Debbie, and I was like, it's just like it hits you like a freight train. I'm like, man, I'm all over the right stuff, and I just fished them wrong. And I know I fished them wrong. And go back the next day and retrace your steps and blister them because you was just a little bit off. You was a little bit fast. You was a little bit too shallow, or you was a little bit too deep, and you make that adjustment. And but the ability to recognize that and then go back with 100% confidence and blister them the next day is and that boils down to one thing. That boils down to time on the water and confidence in what you're doing. And so that's what I told my marshal, that's how I answered that question. And it, it's nothing more than time on the water. And you can't substitute for that. There is no substitute. I mean, an elite series guy or an angler, a professional angler that is trying to pursue this, we have 10 times more bad days than most anglers have, but we learn from them, or try our best, and don't make those mistakes again. And, it's like, man, when this condition rolls up, well, you got to realize the magnitude of conditions roll up time and time and time again. Whenever you're on the water 250 days a year, you see this and you're in different areas of the nation. So you apply all of that knowledge and all that experience, I should say, not knowledge, but all that experience that you've had, good, bad, and indifferent, in ways that hopefully you can benefit you from. The problem is that you're also competing against all those other anglers, either whether it's in the Bassmaster Classic or it's on an Elite Series event, where, man, those guys are going through the same thing. They've all been through there, and there's a lot of really, really talented anglers and really smart guys on that, way smarter than me. I promise you that. And as you guys probably will know. So anyway, I didn't mean to get off on a tangent there, but just kind of give you an in-depth look of how it all goes down for us. And we don't have a problem with saying, hey, I know I left 10 fish here, but I caught 5, and I caught what I felt like was the biggest 5 in here. So in those situations, don't roll up every day, and you make mistakes and you skip over them. Hell, I know I probably rode through the area that Hank Cherry won the Classic at. Now, it could be a timing issue. I maybe wasn't in there at the right time. And I know there was an early morning bite. And, when you have an early morning bite or a shad spawn or a mayfly hatch going on like that, where you've got to capitalize on it, and you've got a limited amount of time to do that, and you've only got 3 days of practice, you have to pick your poison, and it may roll up to where you find that spot. It may roll up where you never even come close to it.